World War II has ended, and the consequences are devastating. It saw the death of over 50 million people, the Holocaust, and millions lived without homes. This war changed world politics. After this war, all European powers were forced to give up their lucrative colonies over time and lost their status as dominant world powers. It was obvious that Europe could not take another hit of same proportions, so by the initiative of European leaders such as Winston Churchill, it gravitated towards forming a union of countries that would be economically dependent on each other. The first step toward this goal was set up in the Schuman Declaration in 1950. It stipulated a plan of integrating the coal and steel industries of Western Europe, which came to realization the next year. This union would have to start with one of the biggest reveals in Europe, Germany and France, joined by other four countries, the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Italy. As the year passed, it became clear that the coal and steel community was becoming outdated. Thus, two new ideas emerged: European Economic Community (EEC) and the European Atomic Energy Community, which is Euratom.
The EEC countries stopped charging custom duties when they trade with each other, which sparked a good period of economical growth. This period, however, also sees the emergence of a Cold War, creation of an Iron Curtain that divides the continent for more than 40 years. Although the EEC provided more interconnectivity between the economies of each state, thus making it easier for companies to do business within the EEC, it still had a handful of opposers among the politicians, one of which being French President and war hero Charles de Gaulle. He was unhappy with the level of influence that the US, UK, and NATO had and did not understand why these entities would determine European affairs. This resulted in France pulling out of the EEC in 1965, practically shutting it down. Eventually, a compromise was made where France agreed to reclaim its seat on the EEC under certain conditions, some of which being that any EEC country will have the power to veto any EEC plans if it was an important national interest, as well as that the EEC must ask approval on certain essential topics from the member countries themselves.
Community, the first new members joined. Denmark, Ireland, and United Kingdom joined the European communities on the 1st of January 1973, raising the number of member countries to 9. The Arab-Israel War of October 1973 triggers an energy crisis and economic problems in Europe. Democracy spreads in Europe with the overthrow of the leading in Greece, Portugal, and Spain. Regional policy starts to transfer huge sums of money to create jobs and infrastructure in poor areas. The first direct elections by citizens of members of the European Parliament take place in 1979.
The Gdansk shipyard strikes in the summer of 1980 for workers' rights and political change. In 1981, Greece becomes the 10th member of the European Communities. Spain and Portugal follows 5 years later. The Single European Act launches a vast 6-year program to create a single market which comes into force in 1987. And in the same year, the Erasmus program is launched to fund university students wishing to study in another European country. The end of the decade sees the collapse of communism regimes in Central and Eastern Europe.
In 1993, the single market is launched with the four freedoms of a free movement for people, goods, services, and money. The 1990s is also the decade of two treaties, the Treaty on the European Union, Maastricht Treaty, and in 1993, the Treaty of Amsterdam in 1999. Austria, Finland, and Sweden joined the EU in 1995, and small village in Luxembourg gives its name to the Schengen Agreement that will gradually allow people to travel to large parts of the EU without passport checks.